The sitting will resume. Point of order, Mr Poots.
Yeah, just before you move to suspension, I wish to raise a point of order regarding the ministerial statement on agriculture. It has always been both the policy and the rules in this House that if a member is here for all or part of a statement and they wish to ask a question, that those members are called for questions. I was here for part, albeit a short part, of the statement. I spoke to your clerk whilst the Minister was still on her feet, and in spite of that you refused to call me, and I want it recorded in this House that you refused to call me and discriminated against me in this respect, and I wish the matter to be raised to the Business Committee.
You, Mr Poots, are quite right that it is the normal practice here that if a member is in the House for a statement or part of a statement, then that member is called to ask a question. Part of the statement for which you were present was when the Minister was on her way down to sit again. You did not hear the statement, therefore you could not ask a question. Further to point of order, Dr McClarty.
Mr Deputy Speaker, it was a fact that the Minister was not sitting whenever the member came into the chamber. The Minister was in her final paragraph whenever the Minister, and he was refused that right. And I really do feel that whenever an hour was set aside for that debate, an hour, that it closed at 22 minutes, then I think that is absolutely a disgrace whenever we're dealing with a sufficient matter of weight, whenever there was still another 38 minutes that was allocated in time. It wasn't pressure of time, it certainly wasn't pressure of business, and you knew it wasn't pressure of business, and therefore I would ask that this be referred to the Speaker.
I thank the member for his point of order. A member should be present for the substantive part of any statement. For a substantive part of the statement. You cannot ask a question if you do not know what has gone before. So that is my ruling.
Further to that point of order, Mr Deputy, could I ask you please to tell me what part it says substantive part? Is that written in that statement? Because I was told by the clerk it was the statement or part of, not substantive part.
Dr McClarty, I have made the ruling. If you wish to refer the matter to the Speaker, then you are free to do so.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I have already stated I wish this matter to be referred officially to the Speaker.
And so it shall be. Point of order.
Corey Margaret, last concluder. Just what I'd put one of our own speakers down, which was Francie Malloy, and he was in for part of the debate. No, missed the very start, and it was ruled that he wouldn't get asked a question to it. So I want to take a ruling on that as well, because he was in for part of the Minister's statement before she actually finished her statement.
Thank you for that point of order. The circumstances were exactly the same as with Mr Poots.
Further to that point of order, you made a ruling there, and I always was of the opinion that if you weren't in for the start of the statement, and then you wouldn't get heard. You did make a ruling earlier on to Mr Poots, stating quite clearly that if you're in for part of it, and then you will get asked a question. Now, one of our members here was in for part of the statement, but yet he was refused to be called for a question.
It is the ruling of the Speaker that if a member is in for part of the statement, then the Speaker may call the Speaker. In this case, in both these instances, the members were not in for the substantive part of the statement, and therefore I ruled that a question could not be asked by either of the two members. I am not taking any more points of order. As I said before, the sitting will resume at 2 p.m. when the motion on the revised recommendations report of the Local Government Boundaries Commissioner will be taken. The sitting is, by leave, suspended.
So there you are. You can suspend business, but the MLAs will always find something to argue about. Mark's here to explain all of that. So a lot of argument about whether or not members were there for a substantive part of the ministerial statement, which was, I believe, the Agriculture Minister, Michelle Kildernew, and yet both Sinn Féin and the DUP mightily aggrieved there.
Well, I'm thinking that Willie Hay is going to have his work cut out, and David McClarty, you saw there, who's the Deputy Speaker, he had his work cut out in dealing with this. I mean, it's a ruling that basically you can't simply just come in and throw a question at a minister having not bothered to hear what they had to say. The fact is that as they get on their feet, the written version of their statement is handed out. So it may well be that Edwin Poots, even though he came in late, had actually flicked through the written version and seen something. But David McClarty felt he hadn't been there for long enough. He said he should be there for a substantial part of the minister's speech. So it will now fall to Willie Hay to decide does the part have to be substantial, or how big is a bit, really, I suppose, is what he got to sort out at this particular point. And it could be an interesting argument, because I think Sinn Féin was saying that Francie Molloy had been discriminated against as well. And the other Deputy Speaker, apart from David McClarty, is Francie Molloy. So Francie Molloy's interpretation on all of this may be different from David McClarty. So I think maybe they'll have to go to the Westminster Speaker or the Doyle Speaker in order to kind of find an independent judgment of how long does a bit have to be. So
whenever Willie Hay brings his Deputy Speakers together to bang heads, it could be an interesting one to be flying the wall.
Because one of them just refused the other the right to speak.
OK. All right, well, as I say, nice to see that they can find something to talk about even when there is no business.